I think a better and more realistic drill is just you are, let's say, player 1 is right at the baseline, player 2 is at the kitchen line, the opposing kitchen line, and player 2 who's at the kitchen line can just mix up the pace of the feed. They can hit a hard ball right at my feet, and I just have to deal with it and try to find a way to drop it in the kitchen, or they can hit a softer shot, and I work my way into the kitchen, and we just play it out like it's a point.
Look how we made it this far. Haven't we made it, my love? Oh, honey, look how we made it this far. Hasn't the pace been a long bit, honey? Take a look at where we are. You, I owe it to you. I owe it to you.
All right, back with another episode of my show. It was a crazy weekend. We were just at Major League Pickleball in New York City, and it was definitely a fun weekend. It was interesting to play a tournament in Central Park, which was super cool. And one of the things, we're just going to get right into it. One of the things that I noticed that a lot more of the pros are doing, and it's always good to copy the pros, obviously. So one of the things that the pros are doing, from what I've seen, is just doing more realistic drilling. So that's something that I do too, and I think it's definitely something you guys could try to implement in your game. When a lot of players drill, sometimes they're doing just dinking back and forth, just kind of cooperatively, really not looking to have any sort of patterns or really try to work on any specific type of dinks. Same thing with resets. They're just kind of resetting the ball. One person's in the kitchen, the other person's right at the, a couple feet inside the baseline, and they're just hitting the ball back and forth. And I found that a lot. I mean, especially even with volleys, right? There are a lot of players that will just volley the ball back and forth to each other, not necessarily, just kind of doing it cooperatively. And in my opinion, that is not realistic at all. You could ask yourself, how many times in a game, in a real pickleball game, are you just volleying cooperatively back and forth with the other person, just hitting it, just straight on, right back and forth with the other person? It almost never happens. It's not something that does happen. So I think, especially if you're a developing player and you're trying to work on specific shots, trying to get better at specific things, I think you should be just 100% trying to emulate the most pickleball specific, the most game specific drill that you can possibly think of. I think that's the way that you get better. And if you're practicing in a way that's different from how you would play in a game, there's actually an argument that you're just confusing yourself, and you might not actually be getting much better at all, other than maybe getting a little better at feeling the ball, or talking to your drilling partner, maybe getting becoming better friends with your drilling partner. So there's a couple different drills that I've been doing. One of my favorite drills that I think works very, very well if you want to get better at volleying. So if somebody's speeding the ball up at you and they're giving you just a bunch of different looks with speed ups, and you're trying to get better at just volleying the ball down, countering the ball down, which is, as we all know, the most important part about volleying. It's not power. It's really just getting it down. If you can impart a downward trajectory on your volley, you are 100%, I would just say this at least, if you're volleying the ball with a downward trajectory, you are above 50-50 in terms of likelihood to win the rally. If you can volley the ball down, it's, Colin Johns calls it the law of the downward angle, and it's absolutely true. So getting the volley down, which is kind of funny, because then if you're volleying cooperatively back and forth with your drilling partner, when you do practice drilling, you're practicing volleying straight forward, which is not correct, not the way that we should be volleying. So maybe you're practicing bad habits. So the way that I do it, there's two different ways to do it. We actually just launched a YouTube video on this, which I think will be connected in the Selkirk newsletter, which demonstrates just how I practice it, the different ways that we do it. But long story short, not going to bore you guys because you can obviously watch that video, but the way that you do it is you will be with your drilling partner across the net from you. It's just you and your drilling partner on half of the court down the line, and you will feed your drilling partner a bad dink. So a dink that you have popped up, let's pretend like you or your partner more likely made a mistake, popped up a dink, and now your drilling partner has a pretty high dink that they can work with and they can just attack you with. And that is the most realistic possible situation. That's what happens in games. So that's why we are practicing that way. So that's what we do. And I do this with my pro partners. I'll do a bad dink feed, and then I'll say there's two different ways to do it. So there's a way where I know where the ball is going, and that's a way for me to practice just volleying the ball down. So if, for example, I'll say, hey, look, I'm going to give you this bad dink, and I want you to speed it up directly to my chest. We'll do that 20 times in a row, and I'll just get a great, amount of repetition, just volleying the ball down directly from my chest. You do it over and over and over, and that is a significantly better way to practice it than doing cooperative volley to volley, where you're just volleying straight forward and forward and forward. The other way to do it, which is the most realistic way to practice, is to give your drilling partner a bad dink feed, same way, and then they can just go anywhere, which is what happens in games. And you do that over and over and over. You give them a bad dink feed, they can go right down the sideline, they can go right at your chest, they can go at your right shoulder. And now, next thing you know, both of us are actually practicing good habits. They're practicing working on their speed up locations, trying to vary the pace and just maybe add some disguise with where it's going. And then I'm working on just reading and reacting, which are the two things that happen most often in games. And I think that are both super important, especially these days with how more powerful the paddles are, and with just generally how fast the game is. So we show that in the YouTube video, just some demonstrations on how to do it and what we look for and how we practice it. I think that's a super, super key thing. Same thing with resetting the ball, right? I don't think that you should necessarily be practicing just resetting back and forth where you're just kind of hanging out in the transition zone and then the person at the kitchen is just kind of casually volleying the ball back to you, or even with drops, right? Which seems to be the way that everybody is practicing either their resets or their drops. That is just rallying, pushing the ball in. I think a better and more realistic drill is just you are, let's say, player one is right at the baseline. Player two is at the kitchen line, the opposing kitchen line. And player two who's at the kitchen line can just mix up the pace of the feed. They can hit a hard ball right at my feet, and I just have to deal with it and try to find a way to drop it in the kitchen. Or they can hit a softer shot, and I work my way into the kitchen, and we just play it out like it's a point. So I think, and this is actually something that maybe you guys can work on too, and just do for yourself. Just try to create drills that are the most realistic to what you would be experiencing in an actual pickleball game. I think pickleball is super behind in that there's only really a few different drills that people do, and most of them are not actually that close to what happens in games. So if I were you guys, get creative with it. Think, okay, what's something that I'm struggling with in a game? Am I struggling with, somebody hits an overhead at me, I'm not that good at getting it back if it's at the baseline. Okay, well, let's have my partner just hit overheads at me. Or, speed ups from this spot, they can just hit that same speed up over and over. I think it's important to recognize that pickleball is a very new game. It's not something that's been super established for decades, and there's all these different drills and techniques that people are, that's just the generally accepted drill. There's not really a lot of that. It's only really been a sport that has been competitive and people are trying to get really good at. All right, so guys, James Ignatowich here. I'm here to tell you about Selkirk's newest creation, the Vanguard Pro. It's got vibration absorption, thermoform. It's got 4 layers of 12K raw carbon, and I've tried it. It's an awesome paddle. Selkirk's always coming out with the best new stuff, and I've always tried every single new paddle that they've come out with. That's just because I'm addicted to trying new stuff, and Selkirk's always, surprising me with new great paddles. So if you're anything like me, or if you just want to use a great paddle that's got great vibration absorption, extra power, it had great spin and great control, felt like it had pretty much everything I wanted, make sure to try it. Vanguard Pro, awesome paddle, give it a shot. Pickleball is not really an established game. It's only been around for a few years, so just keep in mind that you can get creative with your drilling. You can try to emulate the things that are most realistic to what's happening. So that brings me to the last thing that I found to be a pretty effective drill. It's just working on dinking to the exact same spot over and over and over. Instead of just kind of flowing with your dinks and trying to hit different spots and, just kind of practicing aimlessly when you're just dinking the ball. There's a lot of time in games where you are going to be trying to dink to the same spot over and over because let's say somebody's forehand is a lot better than their backhand. So you want to go to the inside foot of the right side player in front of you or the outside foot of the left side player, right? Which would be their backhand, assuming that they're righties. there's going to be a lot of times where you just want to dink to that spot every single time. And it's very, very helpful, I think, at least for me, it's been helpful for my confidence in these intense dinking exchanges. Know that, yeah, well, I practiced hitting 100 dinks in a row to that spot. And I think that's what drills are for. And I think that's what drilling is I think that's how drilling really helps. It's to emulate game situations, put yourself in those situations in practice instead of just doing something entirely different in your drilling session from what you would be doing in a game. So those are the main things. And yeah, we've got it on our YouTube channel. Make sure to check it out. And that would be the main focus of it. So let's see what's next. I mean, I guess just get into the pro player gossip. See, no, I'm just kidding. We can actually talk about another thing that I think is super helpful to keep in mind, which is something that I've noticed with pros recently too. When they're hitting drives, they're staying down as much as they possibly can, it seems. They're definitely looking to keep their legs bent, keep their head down. They're not pulling up at all. And I just taught a couple clinics. I taught a Greek clinic at in Manhattan with Andy Peak, the best guy ever, lifetime pen. And I taught a clinic in New Jersey with Montclair Pickleball, the pickleball clinic guys. That was also an awesome time. I'm always going back to New York City. I go to New York City probably almost 8 times a year. It's, in my opinion, the best place in the world. I was born in New York City. I grew up 30 minutes outside or 45 minutes outside of New York City in Darien, Connecticut. And yeah, so that's, I'm always going back there. I'm always teaching clinics there. Had an awesome time. Sorry, kind of a tangent. While I'm on the topic of tangents, let's see, what else did I do today? Or yesterday? It's crazy. So I bought I didn't realize how easy it is to buy Teslas. You can buy a Tesla on your phone, like it's closed, or like you're ordering like a freaking sandwich on Uber Eats. So I was on the Tesla app. I just wanted to buy one because I can finally drive. I can drive starting today. Long story. And so I bought the fastest possible Tesla. I got a Tesla Model S with like all of the speed upgrades, the one they call like the plaid version. I was like, look, I was just going to get the fastest car possible and just, because I'm not home that often. I'm always traveling. So it'll be fun to drive and obviously, follow the speed limit. But yeah, sorry, you could totally just skip through this part. Really what's going on is I'm thinking of the next topic to talk about so that I'm just talking about my day while I'm thinking, what should I talk about next with Coach? But anyway, yeah, it goes 0 to 60 in like 1.9 seconds. I ordered it. It took like 10 minutes and they said, yeah, okay, it's coming tomorrow. And they're just going to send it to my house. So it's wild technology these days. So anyway, yeah, the drive, we all know that you should stay low on the drive and keep your head down on the drive. Let's talk about something cooler. One of the things that I think is definitely something I would implement is the crossbody attack a lot more. I think at the rec level, players are kind of just speeding up. They're just going straight in front of them or going right at the chest of the player in front of them, not really thinking about where to put the ball. And attacking crossbody. So that means across the player's body, especially when that player is directly in front of you. So if you're on the left and they're playing the right, or if you're playing the right and playing the left and they're right in front of you, going across their body is way, way more effective, and especially at the amateur level than it is going straight on. So I'll explain what that means. So when you're speeding the ball up, going across their body, meaning that let's say I've got a forehand right here and you're in front of me, and I would then speed it up across to your forehand side. So another crossbody attack would mean that you're in front of me, I've got a dink here with a backhand, and I speed it up across my body and yours. So a good way to know whether or not you're attacking crossbody is the speed up that you're hitting going across your body. Same thing. So if it's going across my body, it's going across yours. And that's a great way to, I would say, just confuse the person that you're playing against, because it's natural human instinct. If I have a forehand and you're lined up in front of me, then you are going to be thinking backhand first, because that's just the same side. And that's just kind of, it seems to be how it works. And then you will make that person think backhand first, then switch to the forehand side. And we're going to have a YouTube video on this explaining the crossbody attack, but just keep that in mind. And if this is confusing you at all, just think of it this way. speed the ball up more often. I would say probably maybe 75% of the time. Speed the ball up across your own body so that the ball goes from your left to your right. I think that's a super effective way to speed the ball up. And yeah, that's all we've really got for today. And thank you for watching.